Heaven, Heaven and Hell by E.A. Wallis Budge, Volume 3, The Contents of the Books of the Other World, Described and Compared, Chapter 13, Ninth Division of the Tuat, 2, Kingdom of Tamu Kthbre Ra, according to the Book of Gates. Book 3's kind of not divided quite right, is it? The 9th, 10th, and 11th divisions of the Book of Gates contain series of pictures and text which are very hard to explain satisfactorily, and the difficulty is further increased by the fact that only one copy of them is known, i.e. that on the sarcophagus of Seti I. It is quite certain that they cannot refer to the kingdom of XIII, Osiris, and we are driven to conclude that they are intended to illustrate and describe the region of XIII, which, as has already been said, formed the Tuat to which the worshippers of the sun entity of Heliopolis relegated the spirits of their dead. The first division of this remarkable region, i.e. the 9th in the Book of Gates, is entered by the gate called Arat Sheft, which is guarded by the monster serpent Abta. A company of entities keep watch outside, and the corridor is swept by flames of fire, and a warder is in mummified form stands on guard at each end of it. Abta. What do you have to say about how that relates to what I shared from the Book of Lamentations? And warder's mummified form stands at the guard at each end of it. When Yufu Ra has passed through and the gate is closed, the entities outside set up a wall, for they must abide in darkness until he reappears. So soon as the entity has entered the division, 4 entities of the Tuat appear and take hold of the tow line, but they cannot advance until a path is cleared for them. The obstacles in their way take the forms of the huge serpent Apep and a great crocodile, the tail of which is in the form of a serpent's head and neck. The name of the latter monster is given both as Sheshesh and Sesi. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but Volume 2, page 242 and 244 mentions that one, so I probably saw the hieroglyphs there. These have taken up their portions at the end of the division, in that portion of the Tuat, which is not very far from the place at sunrise, and a company of beings appear on the behalf of Yufu Ra and proceed to remove the monsters by means of words of power and magical ceremonies. You'd be amazed at what your rituals can put forth or take away here. The company consists of 6 men, 4 apes and 4 demonesses. In front of them are the 3 men armed with harpoons and grasping a rope, which passes over the prostrate body and head of the entity Yai, its end being held fast in his 2 hands. Yai has on his head a small disc which is set between 2 objects that resemble the ears of a donkey, and these suggest that the figure is intended to represent a form of the sun entity, but on the evil side, right? The donkey is well known as a type of the sun entity, and eater of the ass, eater of the donkey is equally well known as a name for Set, or Apep. See? I was right. In an illustration from the Book of the Dead, chapter 40, see above, page 113, the eater of the donkey is seen biting into the back of a donkey, which is being delivered by the scribe Nekt. In his character of XIII, that Yai is a solar being, and that he opposes Apep on behalf of Ra is obvious. It seems, however, that he is in need of the help of the men with harpoons, and of their companions behind them, each of whom holds the ends of a pole or rope, which is bent in the shape of a bow over his or her head. The men called Haru, Madu, Haka'eu, i.e. those who are over the words, magical power. The apes are called Sa'eu, i.e. the producers of magical effects by making knots and ropes on which they whisper incantations, and the women are called Sa'it, and the work the same kind of magic as the apes. The object which each member of the three groups holds in both hands above his or her head is probably a net, as M. Lefebvre has pointed out, and is actually so represents in the tombs of Ramses VI. In Babylonian legend of the fight between Marduk and Tiamat, the great she-monster of the deep, the entity is made to provide himself with a net with proper which to entangle her feet. In the Book of the Dead, see chapter 153b, we read of the net of Yunqut. And in the Nay, we see three apes working in it and securing the fish which are caught inside it, as Apap was a monster of the deep. To make use of nets in his capture was a wise decision on the part of the friends of Yafu-Ra. So you have the third sphere is the sphere of the ape, isn't it? But you've got Dahote, but Nefer, Buff, okay. Perhaps we're looking at a light being referred to here, instead of just fire beings. Having taken, the humans going through the clay beings, having taken up their positions for attacking Apep, the men with the harpoons work. The rope which is attached to Yai, the demoness and the apes shake out their rope nets over their head and recite their spells, and the men who know the proper words of power shake out their nets and recite the formula which shall have the effect of throwing Apep and Sese into the state of stupefaction wherein it will be easy to slay them. The spells and words of power have their proper effect. The monsters are fascinated and slain, and the path of Yafu-Ra is clear. On the right of the boat of Yafu-Ra is the huge serpent XIII, with a head and the pair of human legs at each end of his body. One head faces north or west, the other south or east. Behind each head is a Urias, and between the Uriah stand Horu, Horus of the Tuat, wearing the crowns of the south and north. See volume 2, page 257. A rope passes under XIII, and on one side is hauled by 8 powers, Sekmeu, and on the other by the souls of the Impt, who are man-headed, and by the followers of Dahote, Thoth, who are ibis-headed, by the followers of Haru, who are hawk-headed, by the followers of Ra, who are ram-headed. See volume 2, page 255, 256, and 258. The claim in Islam is not that God is, that God rests or is supported by anything, but the 8 around it. We have the same theme going on here. It will be noted that the 2 pairs of legs of XIII face in opposite ways, so that in whichever direction he moves, one pair must walk backwards. The 8 powers have overcome the resistance of the 16 entities, and the face of Haru of the Tuat is towards the rising sun. On the left of the path of Yafu-Ra, we see a hawk-headed lion called Haru Yim Uya, i.e. horse in the boat, wearing the crown of the south. On his back stands 2 hawk-headed Horuset, see volume 2, page 247, whose faces typify day and night, and light and darkness, and the sun entities of the south and north. Above the hindquarters of the lion is the head of the entity Ana, wearing the crown of the south. On one side we have 4 entities of the south assisting in the raising of a column surmounted by the crown of the south, and on the other 4 entities of the north assisting in the raising of a column supported by the crown of the north. These ceremonies appear to have some connection with the magical rites which were performed in Egypt in primitive times, in the making ready of the crowns for the sun entity to wear on his rising. Behold, these entities are 1. The serpent Shumte, with 4 heads at each end of his body, and his warder Yapu. 2, the serpent Yata, with a head at each end of his body. 3, the serpent Depe, with 4 human heads and bodies at each end of his body. And its warder Yibeth, is I think how you actually pronounce it. These are faced by 2 entities who are about to attack these serpents with nets, and who assist Haru by reciting words of power for him. 10th vision of the Tuat. 2. Kingdom of Tamu Kbre Ra, according to the Book of Gates. In the 10th division of the hour, which Shifu Ra enters as soon as he's passed through its gate, which is called Jasurt, and is guarded by the monster serpent Tsuju. And it seems that the reconstitution of the sun entity took place. The entity Yafu Ra is towed by entities of the Tuat as before. In this division, all danger appears to have been removed from his path. First stands Unte with 2 stars, and he lights up the upper heaven. Next come 4 entities of flame and fire, who travel with Yafu Ra and give him light. These are followed by 3 star entities, who draw towards them a small boat containing a face which is intended for Yitan, or the sun's disk. The winged serpent acts I think it's the shepherd crook thing, acts as a guide for the entity. Bese, the flame entity, collects fire to put in the new sun. Ankse, the entity of time, in the form of a serpent with 2 faces, which look in opposite directions, decrees the length of the new sun's life. The 4 demonesses cry, "Enter in, O Ra! Hail, come, O Ra!" And the Mehen serpent, surmounted by the entity Haruset, with 1 bow in the dark and the other in light, leads the entity into the east of heaven. See Volume 2, page 266 and 267. Think of, personifications of Ram, but think of how the tarot card, the adjustment art, art temperance, you can depict it, the ascent, descent, the 2 bows. On the right side of the path of Yafu Ra are the 12 Yakamusku entities, each with his paddle. They are born each day, and after the new sun entity has entered his boat, they join him and act as his mariners. Beyond these are 12 demonesses who help to tow the boat of Yafu Ra just before dawn, and then come an entity of the gates of the Tuat, the captain of the entities in the boat, 2 entities who order the courses of the stars, a star entity in the form of an ape, the eye of Ra, which unites itself to the face of Ra, and the guardian of the gate of the division, who does not leave his place. All the other entities travel onwards to the day with Yafu Ra, Volume 2, page 273 to 278. On the left of the path of Yafu Ra, we again see the serpent Apep. To his neck is attached a chain which is grasped by the hands of the 4 Sadafu entities and the 12 Dratiu entities, and by the colossal hand Yaman Kat, and passing over the 5 serpents, to each which is attached a small chain, and it disappears into the ground at the feet of the entity Kde Yamante. Attached to the 5 small chains are figures of Sab, and of the 4 children of Haru are Yusur, viz. Mest, Hape, the Nile, the Wamatef, Kabhasanaf, or is it Kabhasnuf? Close to the body of Apep and lying by the chains which is tied to him is the entity Sirk, or is it Sirk? In front, Apep is attacked by Ginteu and Hanateu entities who are armed with knives and sticks having curled ends. We have seen that in the 9th division, Apep was stupefied by the Sa-Eu and other workers of magic, but here it is clear the defeat of this monster is nearly complete. Now that he has been removed from the path of Yifura and lies fettered, the great entity can continue his journey in peace. The 11th division of the Tuat. Oh, I'm going to have to finish that once things have been uploaded. So, Sharma, peace be upon you.